Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. It seems as though Khamzat Chimaev has not fought in forever, but now we have news today that he's most likely going to be taking on Cannonier. It's a very exciting matchup and a very intriguing matchup for both sides. I see a real path of victory for both guys here. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the fight in order to determine, can Cannonier derail the hype trail that is Khamzat Chimaev? This is a classic matchup of the grizzled, seasoned veteran, a guy that has 5-round experience, a guy who picks it up as the fight goes on, somebody who isn't that good in the first round of fights. I'm of course talking about Cannonier against an absolute killer, a guy who goes out there and tries to get a knockout or a submission in the first 5 seconds of the fight. And I am of course talking about Khamzat Chimaev. Out of his 12 professional fights thus far in his career, 8 of which have come in the first round by amazing first round finishes for Khamzat Chimaev. Whereas with Cannonier, he rarely gets it done in the first round. He's a guy who's going to break you down systematically, and he's going to continuously make reads on you throughout the fight. If you listen to my prediction breakdown of Cannonier versus Marvin Vettori, you would know that the main reason I picked Cannonier to win that fight is his incredible ability to read what happened in the first round, take that into the later rounds of his fights in order to make the adjustments. Cannonier genuinely is at the top of the UFC in terms of mid-fight adjustments, which makes this Khamzat Chimaev fight very interesting. Now, going into this fight, I'm of course very nervous about the stylistic matchup for Cannonier. As I've already said in this video, the first round really has not been a friend of Cannonier. Let me break it down for you guys a little bit. So Cannonier is 4-2 in his last 6 fights, and he's arguably only won 2 first rounds in these 6 fights. So of course, in his last fight against Marvin Vettori, rounds 2 through 5 weren't even remotely close. Cannonier put an all-time great Hall of Fame worthy performance on Marvin Vettori, but he of course started the fight in southpaw, really trying to experiment with what would work and what would not work in that fight, and he found out very quickly that being in southpaw is a huge defensive liability for himself, which is why not only did he lose that first round against Marvin Vettori, but he was stunned and he was almost knocked out and put out of there against Marvin Vettori, a guy who is not known for his finish ability. So then, of course, the fight before this was the Sean Strickland fight. As you could see with Sean Strickland, as we just saw in his Abus fight, Sean Strickland is not a good first-round fighter at all. He really does a similar thing to Cannonier in terms of reading the fight on the feet before really making his move in the second, third, fourth round. So even though I do think Cannonier won the first round against Sean Strickland, as he officially outstruck him on the scorecard, 16 significant strikes to 13 significant strikes, this fight is not a good representation of Cannonier and how he operates in the first round, as he was facing a guy who's basically a mirror image of him in the first round. Now, the Israel Adesanya fight, Izzy's not really known for somebody to be this great first-round fighter either, but he clearly beat Cannonier in round 1. Cannonier looked very hesitant in this round 1, and then the fight everybody's looking at is, of course, the Derek Brunson versus Cannonier fight. This is arguably the best grappler that Cannonier has faced really in his last 6 to 8 fights, and of course, this was a very bad look for Cannonier, especially projecting how he will do for this Khamzat Chimaev matchup, considering Derek Brunson dropped Cannonier really badly in the first round, had him on the ground, and absolutely controlled him pretty consistently and pretty easily for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, Cannonier did do a very nice job at fighting potential submissions off and really not letting him get to this incredibly dominant position. Nonetheless, Cannonier was out-grappled by Derek Brunson, a guy who, in my opinion, is much less explosive and is not as good of an MMA grappler as Khamzat Chimaev is. And in my opinion, Khamzat Chimaev has better striking than him, and I think he has more diverse striking than a guy like Marvin Vettori as well. So if Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson can drop Cannonier in the first round, I believe Khamzat Chimaev will be able to do that as well. You look at Khamzat Chimaev, in the one close fight he's really ever had in the UFC, of course, against Gilbert Burns, he lost that second round. And while he did win that third round, he really won that third round off of his jab. He really did not necessarily outdamage Gilbert Burns, in my opinion, in that third round. It was extremely close, and the statistics for that fight really reflect so. Gilbert Burns, of course, has better jiu-jitsu and overall better grappling than Jared Cannonier, but Jared Cannonier, of course, is much bigger than a Gilbert Burns. He's much stronger, and he has much stronger hips than Gilbert Burns does. But in my opinion, in the first round of Khamzat Chimaev versus Jared Cannonier, Khamzat Chimaev isn't going to be shooting these sloppy single legs, these sloppy double legs out of nowhere. He's going to get Jared Cannonier in the clinch. From the clinch, he's going to try to get his back, or he's going to try to get him up against the cage and then take him for a ride and take him down in that way. That's really how Khamzat Chimaev operates with his takedowns. That's exactly what he did against Gilbert Burns in the first round of their fight, and that's exactly what he did against Kevin Holland in their fight as well. Once the fight does hit the ground, I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to try to ferociously be trying to pass Jared Cannonier's guard into a dominant position, but I think Jared Cannonier is going to do a phenomenal job with his incredible strength, with his newfound cardio, with really his newfound grappling that we did see displayed in this Marvin Vettori fight. I think he will be able to be comfortable enough on the ground to really fight off submissions. So I think for the majority of the first round, Khamzat Chimaev is going to have to be content with just battering Jared Cannonier from side control or from top half guard. He's going to try to batter him with ground and pound, and I think Khamzat is going to get at least 2 minutes of control time in the first round and absolutely batter and stun Jared Cannonier very badly going into the second round, where I do think Jared Cannonier will survive. In the second round, I think he'll have some really nice moments on the feet versus Khamzat Chimaev. I think he'll be able to make certain reads on Khamzat Chimaev, such as noticing that Khamzat Chimaev really does not move his head off the center line a lot. So I think Jared Cannonier will be able to time some really nice 1-2s on Khamzat Chimaev's head. I think Khamzat Chimaev will have a very tough fought round 2. I can even see Jared Cannonier winning that second round, very similar to the Gilbert Burns fight. But in my opinion, going into the third round, Jared Cannonier will still be significantly hurt and stunned from the ground and pound that happened in round 1 and from some of the shots he eats in round 2. And I think Khamzat Chimaev in round 3 will be able to take Jared Cannonier down again, get him to the ground, where I do think he will be able to latch in a Darce choke. I think Jared Cannonier is going to be tired of eating huge ground and pound shots in the third round, so he's going to give Khamzat his neck in order to try to get up to his feet. He's going to give him his back, and Khamzat Chimaev is going to jump in and lock up that choke. But in my opinion, this is a very fun fight. I can absolutely see Khamzat Chimaev submitting or knocking out Jared Cannonier in the very first round. I'm just very nervous about Jared Cannonier's lack of first round prowess, but I do think Cannonier will be good enough to survive that first round, but I do think ultimately that first round will be his demise, as he's going to take a significant amount of damage in this round. Thanks for listening, guys. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Jared Cannonier versus Khamzat Chimaev? This is a very exciting matchup in my opinion, and could Jared Cannonier derail the hype train that is Khamzat Chimaev?